Before Kobe Bryant or Vince Carter or Tracy McGrady, there was a time when Grant Hill was supposed to be the next Michael Jordan. Coming out of college, Grant Hill had a ridiculous amount of hype. That was expected as he had one of the greatest college careers ever. Hill was the 1994 ACC Player of the Year, a consensus first-team All-American, and two-time NCAA champion. It was not crazy when people thought that he would be like Michael Jordan, except better because he was a better passer and never had the same type of selfishness. Plus, he was also the definition of class. What's good, fellas? My name's Andy, and today we're gonna take a look at the career of Grant Hill, his rise to stardom, his downfall, and the later part of his career. Coming into the NBA in 1994, that was the perfect time for a couple of reasons. Michael Jordan recently announced his first retirement, and Grant Hill was the talk of the nation. Nobody knew if Michael was gonna come back, so the media, the fans, everybody was trying to find the next MJ, to bring that excitement back to the sport. Just like MJ, Hill also got drafted at number 3. He was behind Glenn Robinson and Jason Kidd, two players who were also really good and had great careers. Also around this time, the Detroit Pistons were going through a rebuilding phase. The Bad Boys era was coming to a close and they needed their next franchise player. Then in comes Grant Hill. He fell right into their laps at the perfect time and he would answer that call. As a rookie, Hill hit the ground running, averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and nearly 2 steals per game. He was also selected to the All-Star team. To give you an idea of how popular he really was, he actually got the most votes out of any other player in the All-Star game, and he was just a rookie. Up until today, he's still the only rookie ever to get the most votes in the All-Star game. That's pretty insane. Just like back in college, Hill displayed his extensive repertoire of skills in the NBA. At 6'8", 220 pounds, he had the height of a small forward but the quickness of a point guard. Despite being listed as a small forward, he spent most of his time initiating the offense and bringing the ball up the court. Similar to guys like Scottie Pippen and LeBron James, two players that fans always compare him to. In terms of playstyle, they were indeed similar and they're all point forwards. At the end of his rookie season, him and Jason Kidd both finished with the same number of points in the Rookie of the Year voting. As a result, they became co-Rookies of the Year in 1995. Unfortunately, the Pistons as a team did not do so well. As I mentioned earlier, they were still rebuilding, and despite Grant's great season, they only finished with a 28-54 record. For the next couple years, Grant Hill, Allen Houston, and the rest of the team would make major improvements. Hill's stats increased across the board, and the Pistons had a season where they won 54 games. However, in the 6 seasons Hill played in Detroit, he never saw any playoff success. The Pistons never got past the first round. In fact, they only won a total of 4 playoff games in the 6 years he was there. There was a bunch of problems with this team. Overall, offensively, defensively, they were always in the middle of the pack. Which isn't bad, but it's not good. It's not enough to contend. When it comes down to it, Hill's supporting cast was mediocre. His best teammates included Allen Houston, Joe Dumars, who was pretty old at that time, and later on a young Jerry Stackhouse who was chucking up shots like crazy. Also, believe it or not, the Eastern Conference in the 1990s was very, very tough. For example, the Pistons won 54 games in 1997, but they were only the 5th seed. They never had home court advantage in any series during the Grant Hill era. Individually, Hill was still great. He was a 5-time All-Star and 5-time All-NBA by the age of 28. He led the team in points, rebounds, and assists for multiple seasons. That's all very impressive, but little did everyone know, his career was about to go downhill faster than you can blink. So where did this downfall begin? Well, it was actually in Detroit during the 1999-2000 season, which turned out to be his last season there. Hill had the best individual season of his entire career. He averaged a career high in points with 25.8. The Pistons revamped their roster, brought in some younger guys, and hoped that they could provide Hill with the help that he needs. Unfortunately, their plans changed. On April 15, 2000, a couple days before the playoffs started, Hill sprained his left ankle. It was nothing serious. Ankle sprains happen all the time. Nobody had any concerns as he was a very healthy guy. In the last 5 seasons, he only missed a total of 5 games. However, it was this ankle sprain that would change his career forever. When the playoffs started, it was clear that Hill had not fully recovered from it and his ankle was still bothering him, but he played through it. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Well, it turns out it was worse than everyone thought. Halfway through Game 2, Hill left the court and did not return for the rest of the series. Additionally, he was planning to participate in the 2000 Summer Olympics, but his ankle was still bothering him. Now, the concerns were real. In the 2000 offseason, Hill was an unrestricted free agent, but the Pistons decided to let him go. His ankle injury was part of it, but it was mainly because they felt like he already reached his peak. In 6 seasons, he really didn't lead his team anywhere despite putting up great numbers. The Pistons did not feel comfortable giving him a massive contract, so they agreed to do a sign and trade, sending him to the Orlando Magic in exchange for Chucky Atkins and Ben Wallace. In Orlando, him and Tracy McGrady were expected to be the next great duo, but unfortunately, the worst thing that could have happened. Something was clearly wrong with Hill's ankle. It was just not getting healthy. Now, I know I've talked about how popular he was so many times already, but I gotta put this in a different perspective. In the 2000 to 2001 season, Grant Hill played 4 games for the Orlando Magic, just 4, and he was still voted in as a starter for the All-Star game. Now that's crazy. He was up there with MJ, Kobe, or Yao Ming in terms of popularity. Anyway, from 2000 to 2004, Hill got 5 different surgeries on his left ankle and played only 47 games during that time, the worst of which happened in March of 2003. That surgery resulted in an MRSA infection, which was potentially fatal. That caused him to have a 104-degree fever and spent a week hospitalized in the intensive care unit. He said, "My temperature rose to 104 degrees, then 104.5. I'm lying there, shaking, freezing, now I can't control my body. They rush me to the hospital, I'm on the gurney. They tell me to count backwards from 100, they're holding my arms down. I don't know how close I was to going, but that's as close as I've ever been to dying." He had to go through a 7-hour surgery where doctors grafted skin and arteries from his left triceps to close the ankle wound and restore circulation. Yikes, the doctor said that there was a possibility that he might have to get his ankle amputated and he could never play in the NBA again. But that never fazed him. After the surgery, Hill missed the entire 2003-04 season recovering and going through rehab, and it was unlikely he'd ever return to his former self. In an interview, he said that, "When you're out as long as I've been, you don't think about being an all-star again or one of the best players in the game. You think, will I ever experience to feel what it's like to celebrate with teammates after a game-winning shot, or that feeling of dejection when you walk off the court after getting blown out by the Bobcats the other night? I know that sounds crazy, but damn it, I'm glad I felt that hurt. I cherish everything now." It was a great response by Grant. He knows that what he went through was terrible, but he felt blessed to have the opportunity to still go out there and play with his team. And it turns out his recovery went very well. In the 2004-05 season, he made his comeback. He returned to the court and looked like the old Grant Hill we all know and love, even making the All-Star team again. He was even voted in as a starter once again. Everyone was excited and grateful that he was able to recover and play basketball again. Unfortunately, in the following season, he got a hernia and had to get another surgery. And there was also something else he had to fight against, and that was age. Even though Hill recovered very well, age is still a thing. He was 33 years old at this point. In the next few years, he would transition into a role player, averaging about 12 points a game. With the Phoenix Suns between 2007 to 2011, he was completely healthy, the healthiest he's been since his days in Detroit. And even at an older age, he still found ways to contribute. In 2013, Hill announced his retirement from basketball, capping off an amazing career. And that's all, folks. That sums up the story of Grant Hill, one of the greatest and most popular players of all time. By the end of his career, he was a 7-time All-Star and 5-time All-NBA. At one point, he was expected to take over the league, but he could not overcome all the ankle problems. Even so, he was so good in his prime that he became a first-ballot Hall of Famer. There's always that big question, though. What if Grant Hill never got injured? Would him and T-Mac win a championship together? I'm not sure about that, but they would definitely be contenders for a long time, and maybe T-Mac would have stayed in Orlando if Grant was healthy. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.